And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. We're here with Dan and Kris from the Battered Herons to talk Inter Miami, star-studded Inter Miami, if you will, and their 2024 season with CONCACAF Champions Cup, or Champions League, if you still call it that, the regular season, Leagues Cup. They got a ton of games. We're going to dive right into it. First off, guys, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We just got done recording our Battered Herons show, so we're ready. We warmed up. We're good to go.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. And we just won a preseason game that doesn't matter.
Feels great. You know what? Don't ask the rest of the world that, because apparently it does.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I'm also here with Connor. As always, Connor, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Glad you're with us. Glad that we've got two members of the Inter Miami fans to preview this team with us. But before we do that, and it's another one that I forgot to mention, we do Scarf of the Week. I don't know if you guys have a scarf handy with you relatively
close.
Son of
a mother. No, and I forgot, because you told me about this last week and I completely forgot.
That's
I was gonna bring in have an El Clasico that when they played it here in the Hard Rock that I wanted to go and show off.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yes.
Oh, we got one here.
Got my scarf here. It is a scarf that came. Hold on. I'll wear it over here. So it's a scarf that came with our season ticket box, which this is legitimately the only good thing that came in that box. And yeah, might as well rock it.
Yep, absolutely. Yes. Love that. We I'm not unfortunately a season ticket holder at Red Bull, but every year it seems that the package gets worse and worse anyway. So I think it's par for the league.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Connor, what are you rocking?
Well, I got my Miami scarf, of course, and
okay.
I was lucky enough to pick it up before Messi joined, so it didn't cost $1 billion. But it's a pretty nice one. I like it. I like I mean, Miami's colors are great. So like no matter what scarf they put together, as long as their colors are on there, it's going to be a nice scarf.
I think that's my favorite thing, is that when you think pink in football around the world, I mean, there's going to be like just one team, I think, that it resonates with. So I think that's what I like, the pink.
Yeah. I can think off the top of my head, like Palermo way back in like early Serie A. But even then, that's like 2007. That's
right. And I remember that they had some purple stuff going on also. Like they've had quite a few colors.
Yeah. Connor's got about 9 scarves, and somehow he's had a scarf for every team.
More than 9 scarves, clearly.
7 for 7 is good though.
It is good.
I'm also rocking an Inter Miami scarf off the scarf wall.
All right.
I believe we're going with Freedom to Dream. Yeah, Freedom to Dream. So I like it. It's different. So the material's a little thinner, so it's not like one of those real heavy ones. And usually Miami. Those are the kind of like they cheap out on them. But I like it. It's simple, but it's enough,
It's hard to wear those down here because it's never cold. So they got to make them thin.
Yeah, they got to make them thin. Fair.
Well, my imaginary would have been the Real Madrid, Barcelona, El Clasico in 2018 here at the Hard Rock Stadium. That's what I was going to bring when you told me about it. And I completely forgot. Now I'm disappointed.
No worries. If we get a break and you want to go run and see if you can find it, we're here for it. As we enter this, let's start where we're at right now. You're on a preseason tour. Tata Martino entering his first full season after taking over from Phil Neville. He's got the star-studded Inter Miami that finished 14th in the East, 27th overall, 34 points, 9 wins, 18 losses, 7 draws, but they did win the Leagues Cup and they missed out on the playoffs. Now here is the talking point, and you guys were kind of alluding to it before. People are really taking a lot out of this preseason, and it seems like you guys are a part of the camp of most of us, where it's not so much to hang your hat on. But is there anything that's worrying you about this preseason so far,
Kris?
Well, I mean, as far as the play is concerned, these guys are just getting warmed up, and you're just hoping to see sort of the kinks being worked out. In terms of like visually and the aesthetic of him not playing in Hong Kong, losing to Al Nazir, that wasn't great, right, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to lose 6-0, even if it's a preseason game. Even though it doesn't count, you can still look bad and it can still be embarrassing. And that's what it was. It was embarrassing, especially with that Laporta had 3/4 of the field and he scored that goal. So it can be embarrassing. But I don't think it's anything to worry about too much. Messi only played 5 minutes in that game. I wouldn't be too concerned. I think the brand took a hit worldwide. They did that world tour to get some brand recognition. I think it ended up backfiring. I think the brand took a hit. But as far as the play on the field, the only thing that we've come to realize, which was an issue last year, is that we can't really play out of the back. And Tata wants to force that, and we don't have the players for it. So, I mean, in reality, we won our first game since September 20th. So that was nice, even though it's preseason. But yeah, back is where I think the only concern has been in the preseason. Because when you watch Luis Suarez, miss some shots, Campana, Messi, like, you figure these guys are world class. They'll get it going eventually. But the defense, that I don't know if they can figure that out.
And while you fix your microphone real quick, Danny, because I think it just cut out to the computer one. Basically, a lot of the fan base is looking at this preseason as just working the kinks out. Nobody's really putting as much weight in this preseason as I guess the masses or the public is, because of this shiny world tour, this messy world tour. So the internal fan base is looking at this from a little bit lesser of a scope than the nation is.
And I think that's exactly where I personally am, and I'll let Connor kind of touch on that too. But for me, I think I don't take a lot of weight into it, as in what is this team going to do in MLS play. But I think you can also still be worried about the results. Like you mentioned, the defense being where it is and losing 6-0. That can be worrying to a degree. But I think the bigger thing, and Daniel, I think you touched on it, was the brand, right? It's not a great look for the league going around and having things happen that way, regardless of what it means to what they do in the league, right? You can go ahead and be in two camps at once, I think, where you can write it off and say it's preseason, which it absolutely is, but you can also be disappointed and then realize that, and this is where I'm at, where for people who don't watch the league and only know them as a name, as a brand, it's not great. And that's kind of where I'm at. I don't take much into it for what it means for the season, but overall, in terms of brand and the league and things outside of where we are, that's kind of where I put my emphasis on it. It seems like you guys as well. Connor, your thoughts on that?
Sorry, couldn't unmute myself for a second there. I think we had talked about this off air somewhat recently, a couple days back maybe, where we felt like there were two really like differing sides on how to view the preseason. I think we kind of fell like in the middle during our conversation, where it's like basically exactly what you said. It was like maybe there is some merit to like some possible defensive concerns, but to absolutely be like, oh, Miami's in the mud, like they're looking terrible, like their season is already off to an awful start just from some preseason games, I think is beyond dramatic. And I was doing a little bit of research before this episode, and granted, I don't know how accurate this is, but according to what's on Transfer Market, this team already is looking like an infirmary. Like there's how many? 7 guys with an injury marker next to them on this list already, and 3 of them are center backs. So, of course, when you have 3 center backs out potentially, it's not going to do you any favors in the defensive department. So, I think people really got to take the preseason with a grain of salt, and let's see what happens when the regular season rolls around.
I think ultimately the worry with Inter Miami, at least in the preseason, is that although you don't play the results, you kind of get a feel for how they want to play the game. And Tata wants to play that high line. And from what we've seen, we don't have the speed nor the technical ability to play that. So although we can't put a lot of weight on what we see in the preseason, if he keeps playing that high line, which we know he's going to play, the players haven't shown the capability last year or this year to play that. And we thought that we would get some new players that would fill that role. But instead of getting new players to fill that role, we ended up shipping off our best defender, Kamal Miller, for an international spot and some GAM money. So it's really difficult to not worry about it just because you know the players that you want to fit that system aren't there. And so I mean, hopefully they surprise us somehow, but it's hard to believe that they'll turn it on when he's playing that high line.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from my experience, I don't know if Andrew mentioned it before the show started, but I'm an Atlanta fan. So my early years as an Atlanta fan, got to watch Tata Martino be the coach of that side. And I think that was a side suited for the way that he wanted to play. Having guys like Miggy Almiron and Josef Martinez and Tito Villalba were electric, could, use their speed and press like you were talking about, play that high line and win the ball, find Josef, give him those opportunities to
Be
take
aggressive.
guys on. Yeah, be one-on-one with the goalkeeper or the defender, and he beats them and he scores. And that's why he was the most prolific goal scorer in the league for a few seasons.
And then Gressel fit perfectly because he would just offensively minded, go ahead, cross the ball. And, but here we need him defensively, and he's not a defender. I know he's technically a defender, but he's not a defender.
Yep, I think there's a lot of time here to talk about maybe some of the negative parts of the roster, but I do want to talk a little bit about the positive first, right? So, in your guys' opinion, who is your best addition this offseason? You guys have made a lot of moves, really. Who do you guys think is the best one on the roster so far?
Kris?
Well, I think the best addition that and you're talking about this offseason. You're not talking about last offseason.
Yeah, he's not talking about Messi. Don't worry about Messi. Messi's the given.
So I think this season, I think a lot of people are going to look at maybe, of course they're going to bring up Luis Suarez. That's sort of the obvious one, right? But if I can go a little bit off the beaten path, I'll probably mention Gressel, because he's more of an offensive-minded player that can be able to cross the ball to players like Campana, who is very, dominant in the air because of his size, and he likes to, put in a lot of headers. Luis Suarez, of course, is another one that can be able to play that way and is a little bit more versatile, great with his feet. Gressel would be the name that I would probably say is someone that is in high anticipation in regards to what the fan base is expecting. What about you, Danny? What do you think?
We didn't really do too much as far as acquisitions goes. As much I know we had a lot of moving parts, but a lot of players leaving. But we don't really have too many additions. We had Gressel, we had Luis Suarez, and then we had some academy players that we converted onto the main roster. We drafted, I forgot this kid named Bright. We got Tyler, but those are all academy players. So as far as names, really only that I could think of, unless Kris, you can remind me, is Gressel and Luis Suarez. Now, Luis Suarez is an obvious because if he can do what he did in Brazil, he's going to kill it in MLS. Now, Gressel is more of a question mark to me, just because we need him at right back, and defensively he's going to struggle. Our defense struggles as it is. The positive to Gressel is that when Messi wasn't on the pitch last year, we struggled creating offense because Campana, and much like Luis Suarez, they kind of depend on being fed the ball, right? They need somebody to play them the ball, and Gressel can do that, right? Supposedly he has world renown for his crosses and pinpoint passing. So hopefully he can create something, because we weren't able to create anything when Messi wasn't playing.
Freire would be the only other option too at this point.
Oh yeah, he was another signing, but everything we've heard, we're not excited about him, but we'll see.
Absolutely
That's a center back that we added.
Guy's a garbage bag. Probably still in
okay.
maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he's in a body bag at this point. Yeah, you were gonna say, Connor?
Oh, I think I was jumping in there because that's somebody that I had my eye on was Freire, because you guys needed a Kamal Miller replacement, and from what he had done at Pumas, he looked, and again on paper, I haven't seen him really play yet. He looked like he would do the job, but it seems like maybe not.
We spoke to somebody that has a podcast for Olympiacos, the club in Greece that he played the last season.
Yep.
And so just to get an idea for him, they told us he's slow. Already told you, we play a high line. We can't afford anybody slow. He's not good distributing the ball. Again, we play out of the back, so that's not good. And supposedly he can win headed duels. So I guess, okay, all right, well, maybe that helps us with our set piece defense, which is also weak. But we need somebody that can handle the ball, distribute the ball. Supposedly he's not good at that, and supposedly he's slow. and he's been loaned out. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I think it was 6 times over the last like 8 years. So if somebody's good, they're not loaning him out consistently. So I'm having my
We're
fingers
worried.
crossed. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't have my hopes up.
Maybe I can try to help relieve that a bit.
Yes, please.
Matt Miazga was a guy that was loaned out constantly before he came back to MLS. And
Okay.
since he's been back in Cincy, he's been unreal. I mean, like defensive player of the year level. So maybe the loan thing hopefully isn't a bad omen, but
just haven't found the right spot, I guess.
yeah, and maybe Miami's his spot. But to your
Hopefully.
point, if he is slow and they do play a
Mhm.
high line, that's definitely a concern.
Mhm.
I guess I'll take this the chance to jump in on my best addition. It's probably a bit obvious based on what I was talking about before, but I'm a massive Julian Gressel fan. I loved him when he was at Atlanta, and I got to imagine part of his reason for going to Miami over other teams was likely Tata Martino, because he was great when Tata was there. I mean, Tata gave him the chance to play. He was rookie of the year. He was such a key piece to that team, but I think it's all about playing him in the right spot. If he's going to end up playing as a right back, I think that's definitely a little bit concerning. I think he can manage it if he's like a 5 in the back right wing back. Is then I think it's a great opportunity for him to play crosses into Campagna and Suarez. Or even if he's in the midfield, I think that's another good option for him. But definitely if he's playing like a 4 in the back right back, that's definitely concerning, because to the point you mentioned before, he's just not a defender. Like he's someone he can like get back and defend a little bit, but he's just not. He's a more attack minded player. I guess regardless of that, I think he's still an amazing pickup for them. One that I'm sure a lot of new fans that followed Messi over probably don't know who he is, but I think by the end of the season, they're going to know who Julian Gressel is.
I hope so. We've watched him play 5 preseason games so far, and the best outing he's had is when he started at right wing last game. So obviously, just focused offensively, no defensive responsibilities, and they played 4 in the back that game, which was nice because they've been playing that 3 in the back, which is a disaster also. But yeah, hopefully you're right. And one name that isn't technically a new addition, but we were just talking about him a couple minutes ago, Ian Frey. Not a lot of people know who Ian Frey is. He was having a phenomenal season before he tore his ACL. He tore his ACL literally Messi's debut game against Cruz Azul. And if he comes back and he can be healthy, he would be the missing link at center back because he was showing that he could be an absolute monster if healthy. So just a name to keep in mind in case you hadn't heard about Ian Frey.
Yeah, really, I liked a lot of what I saw from him in, the build up to that injury. And it was so unfortunate because not only was he playing well, like in the lead up, in that game, he was great. Like that individual game, I remember watching, I was like, oh my goodness, this guy's good. Like he's good. And then it happened. And it's like, it always happens when you're having the best game of your season, So,
that's
we've
his
talked
third
about people
ACL tear though.
Oh yeah. That's not great.
No bueno.
Nope. Mine also was Julian Gressel. I won't beat the dead horse on that one, but I will ask from your points of view, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit already. They've let a lot of people go, really, to move some pieces around. Who's the biggest loss so far? And I think Daniel was kind of hinting at this already.
Oh, it's Kamal Miller.
Yep.
It's Kamal Miller. I mean, at this point, you're really starting to see the defense as Swiss cheese because of Kamal Miller. And the funny part about that is that you had a lot of fans that were like, at first, Kamal Miller's kind of slow. Oh, Kamal Miller isn't that great. But then now Kamal Miller's gone and everybody is dying for Kamal Miller and wishes he was back. Kamal Miller was, at some point, he was playing on fire with Montreal, no? And then we obtained him.
An all-star.
Yeah, he was an all-star with Montreal. We obtained him. We saw a lot of good play out of him. Very aggressive player, good with the ball at his feet. And then on top of that, he was actually a lot more aggressive as a defender, pushing the ball up, especially when it's needed. And to lose him, it's been brutal. It's been a disaster. And because we just haven't been able to find the right spot, right, Danny?
Yeah, 25-year-old lefty that can distribute the ball. Yeah, he was slow, but I thought his recovery speed was okay. Like, it's not like he would just give up on the play.
Absolutely.
Like, he had good recovery speed. He would get back in the play, get back into position. It wasn't like ideal speed and pace, no. But right now, if Freire can be half of what Miller was, like that's that's what I'm hoping for. Like, just give me kind of what Kamal Miller did, because you're apparently slow also. Just give me some of what Kamal Miller gave me, and I'll be happy, because Kamal Miller by far our biggest loss. Stefanelli, we lost him also. We never really got to see much of him because he consistently stayed injured. We saw, a moment here or there. We're like, oh, maybe this kid could be good, but we don't really know what we lost because we really didn't get to see too much from him.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback right off it. I also thought Kamal Miller was going to be your biggest loss. I mean, you guys have hit all the points, right? You guys weren't so great on defense already. He was kind of holding everything together, Stretch Armstrong out there, and now he's gone, and you're relying on some unproven or players who might not fit the system perfectly. It's going to be an interesting road. Connor, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I also went Kamal Miller. I think that was kind of an easy one in this case. And the funny thing is, I feel like we still didn't see like the best of Kamal Miller when he was at Miami. Like, I think Kamal Miller at his best was Montreal, and in his time with Miami, I think there was still better Kamal Miller to see. And I think an off season plus another full year with the team could have been wonders for him. I think he definitely could have hit that level again, but it's a shame that they let him go. And not to go too far off tangent, but I think him and Zach McGraw are set up for a really good center back pairing in Portland now.
With Chris's boy Phil Neville. Chris loves Phil Neville. We had Tom Bogarts on the show a couple weeks ago, and he told us Inter Miami had no intention of trading Kamal Miller. They told Portland, we want the GAM, we want the international spot. Pick who you want. They said Kamal Miller, and if you don't give us Kamal Miller, then call us back when you're ready to give us Kamal Miller. And they felt like they were in a corner, and they felt like they needed to do it. I think a lot of that GAM money went towards Gressel, and they needed to do it for Gressel. But he said that Inter Miami did not want to give up on Kamal Miller, and it was almost forced into that. So that was an interesting tidbit that he gave us.
And Connor, you're right on the money, because I think I agree with you in that sentiment that if he would have just had an off season and some more time with the team, I think he would have been phenomenal this year. I mean, Kamal Miller, at the end of the day, he's going to be that girlfriend that you wish you wanted back. She was good. She wasn't that great in some things, but like, you miss her overall, and you lost a good one with Kamal Miller. So, we're just going to have to
dependable.
Yeah, she was dependable. She was on time. She did a lot of good things, and we got rid of her, and now she's gone. And now she's going to be treating another team a lot better than we were treated.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a great analogy. Because it makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
So we've got the best in, we've got the biggest loss, which means players are going to have to step up, and you might see some names that you don't recognize. Who is the player to watch this year that's primed for a breakout?
I'll let you take that first, Danny.
It's kind of hard to think of players that you won't recognize. So I'll go. Let's see. I think Noah Allen, if he gets playing time, I think people don't realize the potential that this kid has. Now, of course, he's not going to get much playing time behind Jordi Alba, but he has been getting a lot of time at left center back when they play with three in the back. And if that's the route that they take, and he ends up playing left center back, preseason is preseason, and we've said already how it doesn't count. But from the first preseason game that we saw him at center back to the fourth, there was already big strides. And I was like, okay, maybe he can hang as center back. So Noah Allen, we are always big on Noah Allen. And I guess if I want to give you a name that is going to get a lot of playing time, I think Robert Taylor.
Yes, that's who I was going to go with.
Okay, so I'll let you talk Robert Taylor. So I'll give you a different one. Diego Gomez. Diego Gomez is somebody that had a rough go towards the end of the season. Inter Miami fans were really sour on him, and he's lifted that Olympic Paraguay team. He's the captain of that team, and he's been balling while he's been in the Olympics. Tata believes in him. People think that Kremaki is going to be playing. Kremaki is not going to start. It's going to be Diego Gomez over Kremaki, even though Kremaki is now injured. But I think it was going to be Diego Gomez regardless. And I think Diego Gomez is the name that people are going to start to recognize more often.
and I think he's part of the U22 or the U21
Yeah, U22
yeah. And so that's one name, I guess. I'm not a big fan of Diego Gomez, but Robert Taylor, like I was mentioning, he actually caught some fire last year during the Leagues Cup playing with Messi. So that's somebody that I guess a lot of people are familiar with. He actually scored a goal and had an assist in the last game that we just had against Hong Kong. I mean, it's preseason, but regardless, it's still, he's rolling. The other player who I would have mentioned would be Farias, but he's injured at this point.
He's out for the year.
Yeah, he's out for the year. Other than the names that we mentioned, I mean, I don't want to keep on naming names because I know that you guys got something locked and loaded. So what about you, Andrew? Who do you think is somebody that maybe we can expect to see some greatness?
So for me, the big one that stood out to me, and again, preseason, but against El Salvador, I thought Thomas Aviles was fantastic. I'm very, very excited to see him. And again, maybe a lot of people know who he is, but when we talk about this breakout player to watch, I'm talking about taking it to the next, like, top level. And I think he can be a player like that. At just 19 years old, I think it's 19, he is, I mean, he looks like a leader. He looks like he's been playing the game for.
He also looks like he's 10 years old. He looks really young.
Oh yeah, he looks like a kid, but he the way he plays it, he looks like he's been in the game for 15 years. He's going ahead and he's commanding the line, and he's setting where they're supposed to drop off to, and he's winning the ball in the air. He's getting stuck into tackles, and he's doing everything you would expect of somebody there. And that made me think, man, imagine he's playing next to Kamal Miller. Unstoppable, right? Like that's the type of vibe I get from him. I'm really excited to watch him play this year. Unfortunately, I think he might be not surrounded by the best defenders that he can do that. And he might be exposed a little bit in that sense. But individually, if you watch his 1v1 defending and his ability in the air, I think you're going to see a very, very solid center back out of Thomas Aviles. Oh, he's on mute. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here. So I guess mine's a little bit of a tricky one because I guess it depends on who gets the game time. I tried taking a look at who was getting the game time in the preseason games. And really the spot that I was focusing on was that Kramashi spot. So I saw that David Ruiz was playing a lot there, and I don't know how he's been playing. I saw he got one goal at least. Hard to get a sense of what I would expect from him, but based on what you were saying about Diego Gomez, I'm not sure that he would get the time if Diego Gomez comes back and gets that starting spot. But from the bits that I was looking at from last year when Ruiz was on the team, he seemed like he had decent numbers. I mean, he was still had about 1,200 minutes, still really young, 18. I ultimately just kind of landed on him because he was getting a lot of preseason minutes, but it was kind of tough to figure someone out because to the point that you mentioned before, there's so many notable names already on the team. It's hard to pick someone that's like not well known to the rest of the MLS fans.
Well, Connor, I'm gonna give you a lot of credit just because you probably named the one unknown that everybody's gonna know by the end of the season. And I'm not sure how it went over my head, and I guess Chris is also. David Ruiz is that guy. I'm not sure why I didn't even think of him. David Ruiz is by far the standout of the preseason. He's had the best preseason by far. He is the only one that, if Diego Gomez wasn't going to come to take Remaki's spot, it was probably going to be David Ruiz because he's played that well. He's supposed to be that 6 box-to-box, but plays the defensive side of the midfield. But he has looked so saucy and so good offensively that he is becoming a more attack-minded midfielder, and that's why he's been playing so much in the preseason. I think David Ruiz, if he gets on the pitch, which he will, because we're going to have a lot of rotation because we have a lot of games to come this year, David Ruiz is going to be that household name, and bad on us for letting that slip because, Connor, you hit it you nail on the head right there.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is that he's been getting deeper and deeper in his bag, David Ruiz. And to be honest, a lot of people here locally, I think, would probably prefer David Ruiz over Diego Gomez. But I feel like because Tata sought out Diego Gomez, I think everybody's kind of waiting with bated breath to be like, okay, well, show us what you got, Diego Gomez. Let's see if you have the ability to be able to take this and run with it, or if we're going to have a younger version of you and possibly better version of you just come and steal your job. Because that's essentially what it is with David Ruiz.
Yeah,
That
I feel like
Oh,
that
go ahead.
spot's yeah, sorry. I feel like that spot's open with the Kurmashi injury. I think it opened the door for him, and I don't think Kurmashi's I mean, this is gonna sound like a really stupid statement, but I don't think Kurmashi's on the Messi level where he gets injured and he has a guaranteed spot when he comes back. Like Kurmashi,
No.
the door is wide open. If Ruiz or Gomez comes in and starts playing well, Kurmashi's gonna have to earn that spot back. So I think if Ruiz is playing well in the preseason, I think he's put himself in a prime position to at least be in that competition with Gomez for the starting spot. And ultimately, I guess whoever Tata ends up preferring, I mean, maybe the preseason time with the team gives Ruiz a little bit of a boost, just a little bit better chemistry with the other guys on the team. Maybe it gives him a shot to get some more minutes than people expect.
Well, and it doesn't help that Sunderland also did pretty well in the showing against Hong Kong as well. We're talking about other people that are contributing
Well,
behind them. Go ahead, Danny.
no, I'm just gonna say that I think our academy is underrated. People talk about
Yes.
the big names, but our academy is producing some good talent. David Ruiz, Kremaki, Ian Frey,
Mhm.
Noah Allen, just people that people don't talk about. So and I think that people will start to recognize that this is a deep roster, even when you get past just the big four, as they call them.
So we do a series that it actually just started today. It was our first day where we go ahead and we rate every incoming transfer. And when we saw the signings of players like Tyler Hall or Izzy Boatwright, we went in and we did a little bit of digging. Izzy Boatwright is the 12th academy player you've signed to your first team in, sorry, 4 years now. This is your season 4. So in realistically, 3 seasons. Like,
Well,
and
this is our
all,
fifth season.
is it 5th?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I did my math backwards. It's been a long
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And a
But
lot of those guys you've brought up are contributing. They're not just sitting the bench and making up the numbers at the bottom of the roster. These guys are going in and they're playing minutes and significant minutes amongst very, very good players. So when you mention your academy is underrated, I want to echo that times 1.5 billion because it's unreal.
last season against DC United, we had 6 academy players playing in one game. First time in MLS history. And like I understand why people say that Miami's trying to buy their championships, but I mean they're working the academy also. I mean, if you have Messi that chooses your team, you're not gonna say no. But I mean, they've been building the academy also.
And then not only that, but we haven't even mentioned Harvey Neville, who's, I mean, he's what, with another team. I know, Danny, you can roll your eyes, but like even
He's
when
not
he
with
played
another
on,
team. He's still with us technically, but they're allowing him to go try out for other teams, which is odd. But yeah.
but and the only reason that's that way is because he's Phil Neville's son. But like when he was on the field, he was contributing pretty well as well, and he's also a quote unquote homegrown. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wanted to. I don't want to like hopefully go too long on the youth academy, but I did want to add one other thing as well. I think it's a really great move that they're bringing in all these young guys while all these legends, veterans are on the team. Because even if
absolutely.
Messi or Busquets doesn't want to take a direct coaching role in working with these guys, I bet just even being in practice with them, they probably pick up on so many things watching people who are some of the best to ever play the game. Like that's got to be helpful for the game. Even just being around them, seeing what they do in practice, going up against them, it's got to be so helpful.
Well, David Ruiz talks about how, I mean, and we saw it, right? He looked a little out of control when he first got there. And he said that Messi spoke to him and said, stop looking for the ball, let the ball come to you, take your time. And he said that changed his game completely. And that was after Leagues Cup. We started picking up his game. Right now in the preseason, he looks great. So, like you said, being around those veterans, it could only do good. There's no bad that's going to come from that. Like Noah Allen playing behind Jordi Alba, I'm sure that's only going to improve Noah Allen a millionfold.
All right, y'all. While we watch this season, I kind of want to know from your perspective, your point of view, what's the one question you're entering this season that's still in your mind, right? As we go into day one, game one, what's the question that you're like, I got to be watching this as a storyline this year?
I mean, I could take the easy route, so I don't know if you want to take that, Kris, because I think it's the health, right? 36, 37-year-olds, 35, Jordi Alba. It's the health. We don't know how long these guys can play, because if we go far, if hypothetically we go to the final in every tournament, we're playing close to 60 games. And I mean, and then you have Copa America during the summer where, Messi's going to play. I don't know if Luis Suarez is going to get called up. Luckily, Busquets and Alba are both retired international players, so they're not going to be playing in the Europas. But I think that's the storyline. I think it's just the health. I don't know if you have anything else, Kris.
I mean, the only other storyline that I can muster up here is, how many goals Messi is going to get by the end of the year, because that's something that a lot of people were kind of wondering, especially when we were talking a little bit in the beginning of the season, what the expectation was. I mean, think about it. When Messi came on board last year, we automatically thought that Joseph and Campana were just going to boost up in goals, right? And then that's, I guess, another storyline, Campana and Luis Suarez, how much are they going to be able to put in the back of the net, especially considering that Luis Suarez likes to share the ball as well, So that's another storyline, I guess, that you could think of. But I think number one, like Danny stated, is the health, because you have a lot of older players that you're going to need to contribute a lot of minutes to some meaningful soccer.
And just spitballing here. Also, I don't know how comfortable Tata can get in his position, because they're expecting big things.
Yeah.
And with the heavy rotation, I mean, I'm sure that we have no chance of the supporter shield, because we're going to be doing heavy rotations the first couple weeks of the season already, because our first CCC game is, I want to say, March 6th, which is after our Orlando game. We have a rivalry game 3 or 4 days before our first Champions Cup game. I'm assuming we're not going to take that Orlando game with our A team. You're going to see a lot of rotation for that game, because we're going to put all our eggs in the CCC basket. So
if an MLS game.
Yeah, so you could sacrifice MLS games. If we somehow don't make it out of the Champions Cup first round, like, there's been a lot of murmurs here about Tata's job, which I think is wild to say already before the season even starts to even be saying those things. But that is what you're hearing. You're hearing people talk about Xavi from Barcelona, since he already said that he's not coming back after Barcelona's season's over. People are already starting to speculate, well, could he be coming here after Tata goes? And it's just, I'm just expecting a bunch of hoopla, overreactions, and just all throughout the season, which I'm all here for, because it gives us plenty to talk about.
Connor, what about you? What's your one question?
I kind of went down the obvious question road as well. My question was, how many games do the Barca quartet play this season? I mean, I guess I'm expecting a lot of rotation, considering this squad is 38 players deep right now. So based on the roster build, I think at least the amount of players that they have is the right direction to go. It's good that they have so many guys so that they can rotate and still try to be competitive in so many competitions, versus like an LAFC who have like barely enough players to field an actual game right now.
How many games do you think they play together?
Like all four of them playing together on the field.
Yeah. I'm shooting high 20s. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm banking on.
Like regular season or all competitions?
All competitions. I'm shooting for high 20s.
I'd say mid 20s, maybe like 23 to 25. Maybe about 50% of the games, something like that.
You're going to give away we do a bold prediction episode right before the season hits. Going to give it away here. I'm going less than 20. I've got bad feelings about Luis Suarez's knee.
You're a hater. That's what
I got bad feelings about his knee. The dude's limping out on his first game.
He played
90
games.
minutes. Yeah, he played 90 minutes, 33 games last year in Brazil.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It's a monster.
And he was. And here's the thing. The bold predictions I love to be wrong about, because it's like a lot of them are somebody's going to underperform, and then that person hits 15 goals, 10 assists. I'm like, all right, great, good for you.
Yeah.
Unless it's like, a rival player. But I don't know. I'm not super, because that's also my one question was how many games they're going to play.
Yeah.
You know, with the you got Messi. You mentioned Copa America. Messi's gonna they've already announced he's missing the Red Bull game, so which means we have a chance. Great, awesome. You know, they're gonna be missing for international stuff. They're gonna be needing rest and rotation. I also would expect a lot of it to be Champions Cup, right? Throw everybody in there, give your best 11 in the Champions Cup every single game, however long they're gonna go in there. Then you're gonna rotate through your MLS games, and you're gonna need rest and things like that. I don't know if they're going to play on all the surfaces. I know that's kind of been up in the air as well on some of them. I know some of them said no, don't worry about it. I'm playing wherever I want to play. Some of them not so much. So there's just a lot of things there that are
a lot of variables.
Yeah, for sure. And with all those variables, it comes to the final question of the night. At the end of the day, all possibly 60 games. Where is Inter Miami finishing this season in the conference? We'll do the conference prediction.
I have a question before we give you what we think.
Sure.
What would be your idea of a failure? Or what would you need, and what do you think would be necessary in order to say Inter Miami had a successful season?
Connor, you want to take that one first?
So I would say failure would be missing the playoffs, and maybe that's kind of an obvious one, but
that's fair.
I feel like if they're gonna put so much time and strategy into rotating and trying to work guys into all these different competitions, if you do all of that and then end up missing the playoffs, then I feel like it was like, okay, then we could have either rotated more or maybe we should have rotated less. I think for a success, I think it would be, as you mentioned before, really tough for them to win the Supporter Shield. I think success would be making a deep run in MLS Cup. And I guess I got to think about how far in MLS Cup I would consider a success, but I think they're certainly capable of it. Not that I'm trying to spoil my projected finish, but
personally,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead, Andrew.
For me, I need to see a piece of silverware. It can be the Champions Cup. It can be Leagues Cup. If Open Cup continues on, it can be Open Cup. I need to see tangible stuff because, Red Bull have been living on we are going to have the lowest payroll in the league and make the playoffs and make an okay run, and that's success to us. I don't think you can get away with that with the team that Miami has put together. So to me, and again, I don't want to spoil a predicted finish. I think they can miss the playoffs if they win Leagues Cup and the Champions Cup. I think that's still a success. Now, if you get knocked out of Champions Cup in the semis and you get out of Leagues Cup in the second round on some random penalties and you go into the playoffs and you get knocked out in the first or second round and US Open Cup because you had to rotate 900 games and you are out in the third round to a USL side, I think that's a failure. I think you've gotten deep into a bunch of competitions, but you haven't won anything, and I think that's a failure to me.
I actually think, as far as what I expect is concerned, I think that I think what's expected is at least a long playoff run, at least until the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if you would disagree with me, Danny, on that, or if it's MLS Cup or bust. And I'm just speaking in terms of the MLS.
They need 2 trophies. They can't just give me one. They need 2 trophies for it to be a successful season. They can't give me what they gave me last year. This year, we added Luis Suarez. You have a full year of a squad together. You're automatically in the round of 16 in Champions Cup. You have to give me 2. That's to me, that's a success. And if you don't give me 2, I think it's a failure.
Interesting. I like that mindset because it's an improvement mindset, right? You've already won something last year, and now you've added more. You've gotten the group together. So show me something more. I like that.
Hypothetically, they don't win the Champions Cup. That means that, or even if they make it to the finals of the Champions Cup and they don't win it, that's June 2nd. That means you still have half the season to focus in on making the playoffs. This is a tournament team. Like they may rotate heavy, but put them in a series or in a one game, and I'm riding with
it's a
Messi
wrap.
and boys. And then they have Leagues Cup where they could literally just focus in for that 1 month, like they did last year, on just winning Leagues Cup. Like they need to get 2 trophies this year. Supporter Shield,
Absolutely.
I'm not expecting, not even a little bit, but I think they should be able to get at least 2 trophies. So that's if they don't get 2 trophies, I'm going to be disappointed.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. So that's your end there. Where do you think all of this mindset puts them in the Eastern Conference? Where would they finish with the mindset of maybe the rotation or things like that?
I think they have to finish top 3, Danny and Andrew. I really think so. And I know that, Connor, you didn't want to spoil what you think is the expected, what you guys expected yet, but I think top 3 is where it's absolutely necessary in order to finish. What about you, Danny? What do you think?
I'm thinking 4, 5, or 6. I think the goal is to be top 4 to get a home field advantage, I guess, for the first round when you play those 3 games. But I'm thinking 4, 5, and 6 is more or less where they'll fall, give or take, somewhere in there. I don't think we'd be top 3 at all. I don't think we'll be close.
Connor, what about you?
So I'm sorry to Andrew because he's probably heard this a million times already. Because I think I'm saying it every episode that we're doing right now. But I think the Eastern Conference is stacked this year, and I think it's gonna be really tough up there. I think there's 5, 6, 7 teams that are capable, honestly, of topping the East. I think I think Miami is a playoff team, but I think they've kind of take it slow with the regular season, do enough to get into the playoffs. I think they go 7, 8, or 9 and get into the playoffs, focus on the other competitions. And then I think if they do it right and everybody's healthy, I think they become the most dangerous team in MLS Cup. So
And
I
I,
think,
100%.
and
I
I
think,
think
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that the fan base agrees with you as well. They don't want to put too much fire behind the MLS season March. They want to kind of focus on everything else. And at some point, we'll just make sure to get to the dance.
Yeah. I mean, as nice as it would be to have a home playoff game, just to, something for the fans at least. I mean, maybe technically you could get that with the play-in game. If you get the 8th seed, you get a home playoff game. But
Well, the first round,
In the
that
first
those
round,
3
you get one
legs.
too.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, best of 3, right?
Yeah.
So they will get one at least.
So I agree with you. Now, last year, I remember everybody was like, no chance to make the playoffs. They were too far out. They're the last team in the East before Messi got there. We had 6 games to go, and we were only 6 games back of a playoff spot. If Messi doesn't get injured, I have no doubt, and I was saying it all summer, we're going to make the playoffs. Now, unfortunately, he got injured. But if you think about the fact that we're 6 points out with 6 games to go, and I think it was like 4 out of those 6 were against teams that we were trying to jump over to make the playoffs. I have no doubt we would have made the playoffs. So I don't think making the playoffs, although the East is much better this year, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think the issue is going to be trying to stay in the top half rather than the bottom half. But at least I hope that I don't have to worry about them making the playoffs, because if I do, then things have gone awry somewhere. Because this team, even if you look past Messi, if you can still have half of the Barca boys playing, whether it be Suarez, Messi, Busquets, or Alba, with the rest of the roster, which I think is pretty solid, I still think it's a playoff team. So I still think you should beat most teams, or at least give a fight to most teams, even if Messi's injured.
I am closer to Connor than I am to you, Kris.
Man, nobody's close to Kris. Kris is crazy.
A little bit.
I'm not super hyped with and I kind of talked about it already with the amount of games that group of 4 is going to play. And again, I know it's still preseason. Drake Callender has been up and down, and Drake Callender was massive for you guys in the last run.
Mm-hmm.
In the last couple games, he was fantastic. I mean, earned him a call up to the national team. I mean, he was that good. So if he comes and regresses back down to the norm, now we're looking at good goalkeeping with a suspect defense and possibly injured or being rotated and rested attacking line. and then the midfield missing Benja and Farias, who were supposed to be kind of two of your big creators. It would not shock me if they were somewhere between 6 and 9. It wouldn't shock me if they committed so much time to Champions Cup, Leagues Cup, and even Open Cup and scrapped off MLS altogether, because the prize money across all three of those is more than MLS Cup. I'm fairly certain. I don't think that's changed since the last time I've checked. So if they're going in and saying, okay, we're going to go all in on the 3 cups and let MLS kind of fall to the wayside, it wouldn't shock me. But I'm going to predict 6 to 9, anywhere between the non-home playoff games.
Connor, you're an Atlanta fan, though. You know Tata doesn't care about the Open Cup.
Yeah, we did win it, but I think it was with Frank de Boer, surprisingly enough.
Frank, I can't get my teams to score de Boer.
Yeah, I mean, you got Atlanta to score. I would actually be kind of surprised if Miami committed so much to the other competitions that they just kind of wash their hands with the regular season. I feel like that's another one of those optic things. Like, I just feel like it would look bad to the league, or maybe even the Miami fans, if they missed the playoffs. I feel like as much as they have tempered expectations for the regular season, I think their expectation is they got to make the playoffs at least.
I think the crazy part about that is that the fan base is actually okay with sort of just dumping the MLS season for 2-3 other pieces of hardware, and then next year is the year for the MLS Cup. That's what I think.
I mean, if you put priority on it, I think everybody would agree Champions Cup is number 1. And I think most people will say MLS
Leagues
Cup is
Cup.
number 2. No, Leagues Cup, we got that shit already.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm not meaning to cuss.
No, you're good. You're no worries. Yeah, because that's kind of the mindset here is what is, and you kind of ask it, what's success, right? If they walk out of here with 3 trophies, but don't make the playoffs, is that success? I think
so, yeah.
you can argue that, right?
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, then the next year you go and you get MLS Cup after that. Now you could say, okay, starting from the day Champions League we won in 2024 all the way around to MLS Cup in a year's time, we've won everything.
Yeah.
That's a great look, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So wouldn't shock me, but then again, no team plays to lose games, right? Nobody's going to be like,
absolutely.
oh, we don't care about this game. They're going to go out there and expect whoever they put out on the field, whatever 11 plus 5 that they're going to put out there, is going to be expected to play the game. So,
Absolutely.
I'm not saying they're going to throw things away, but if you're going to prioritize things, right? But
Of course.
yeah, guys, I think that's all we've got, unless there's something massive you think that we need to talk about before we sign off here.
Well,
good.
I mean, the only other thing I could think of is we're going to be getting a new stadium pretty soon. So that's going to be something that's in high anticipation, and a lot of our fan base is waiting for. Hopefully Messi will be able to sign by then to at least 1 more year to open up the new stadium. That's something that's not this place right here. This place only for 1 more year, possibly. So.
And they announced it's 25,000, 0 fit for 25,000. So that should be interesting. We're definitely looking forward to that, because we live about an hour away from the stadium right now where it currently is, because they're playing in North Fort Lauderdale. We live in Miami, so yeah,
that'd be really nice. Yeah, it's always nice to see proper, soccer specific stadiums that are popping up, even if you're already playing in one that's kind of all right. Taking that next step up is always wonderful, and it just cements the soccer landscape, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So I'm sure the rest of us are really looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on and joining us. We really, really enjoyed this chat. This is, out of the last 7, this has been one of the more enjoyable ones. I think at least I could speak to that. I don't know about.
Well, we appreciate that. We had a good time also.
Awesome.
Yeah, much appreciated. I'll go and tell Beckham to check you guys out as well. I'll just, but I'll talk to him later.
Hey, I appreciate you. Listen, we want to give you guys a little bit of time to plug yourselves. Let people who are listening know where to find you.
Battered Herons on YouTube and Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. We go on Mondays at 9, Wednesdays at 9, and Thursdays usually at 9, but that one sometimes 7 o'clock. That one Thursdays is a little weird with the scheduling, but between 7 and 9 o'clock on Thursdays, we do post game. So right after, whenever there's a game, we go live right after the game, and we're doing a Spanish show for those of you that are bilingual and are Messi lovers. You can listen to us in Spanish starting maybe next week with Battered Herons en Español. So that's how you can find us.
Yeah, and you did basically landed it. My little ad is over here, right here. Yeah, right there. And also check out our store, batteredherons.com, or I'm sorry, batterfans.com. You know, we have a store where we sell some merch, not only for our, Inter Miami fans, but Miami Heat fans, New York Jets fans, Knicks fans, all kinds of stuff. So check it out.
Andrew, you'll find some interesting Jet shirts in there for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a running joke with my pops is every time the Jets lose, he has to change. We got him a bunch of Jets shirts for the season, and every time he loses, it's done for the season. So he's got 16 shirts. So he might need another one coming up here real soon.
Oh,
I got some good ones for you for sure.
Good. We'll take a look at
battered merch.
Yeah. All right. I'll keep that in mind. I'll write that down. Guys, go check them out. Show them some love. Give them some subscriptions. And guys, thank you so much again for joining us and giving us some insight here. And we will see everybody on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.
Have a good one.